All right. What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army, and we are live to break down the Monday Night Showdown between the Giants and the Cowboys. Divisional matchup. Let's do this. Finally, we get a showdown slate that's not a fucking turd fest. Now, last night's game, in fairness, was pretty good, but it looked bad on paper. And I have to say, it was one of those rare games where I actually told the members, and I didn't play almost at all. And I said to everybody, listen, I don't have a good read on this game. I kind of feel icky about it. Just not sure what's going to happen here. So I opted on the side of let's just avoid this game. I'm not playing it. I didn't play the showdown outside of a few SuperDraft. Always play SuperDraft because there's so much overlay over there. But and did fine actually on SuperDraft. But I didn't like the slate. I didn't feel comfortable because the Patriots were this great defense, but the Ravens kind of bring a different style of offense that we're not used to. So it was really, really tricky to get a read ahead of it. And obviously the Ravens were awesome and good for them. So they're looking really good this season. But tonight we have a juicier game with lots and lots of potential scorers. And actually, one of the things that I was looking at, I was prepping for this ahead of the podcast was, you know, how they fit together, especially on DraftKings where you really have to make certain decisions. And this definitely feels like there's potential for multiple high-scoring players in this game on both sides, but definitely even more so on the Cowboys side than on the Giants side, although the Giants being at home is a really nice boost. So really potential for good scores on both sides of this game. So one of the keys is going to be trying to squeeze together a lot of good players. Like on DraftKings, we're going to have to really consider not putting the most expensive players at captain because doing that really hampers the rest. And the turds in this one are just not that impressive. So, you know, you only want so many turds in there. You don't want too much. You don't want to load up on studs and duds. You want to get a middling approach here. So let's take a look real quick. And as a bonus, I'm just giving this in the beginning of the breakdown. As a bonus, I'm going to demonstrate the new sort of showdown functionality that we have in the Domination Station Optimizer. It is not live yet. It's on the beta server, which everybody who's a DFS Army subscriber can check out if they like. But you know, I haven't fully beta tested this to the point where I'm ready to send it live. There's a few other things in this update that are happening, but they're all fucking awesome. And you'll see how cool the showdown stuff is that I use here. And I use the new features for the correlated stacking this weekend for NFL, and it's fucking spectacular. Really, it's one of those things where when you're designing a tool, you don't know things until it's out and then you play it. So there's things that you just can't know for sure. And that's just the unfortunate reality of developing tools and software engineering and shit like that. So when you start to play it, and that's why I play these, I use it. So you start to see, oh shit, it would be really nice if we could do this or that or the other thing. So a lot of that kind of stuff, user experience updates, you guys are going to love it. It's really cool. But let's break down the slate. So we've got a 48.5 point total. The Giants, the Cowboys are road favorites here. 6-point favorites on the road. 7, depending where you look. 48.5 point game total. And just for defensive purposes, neither of these teams stand out as a good defensive team. Okay? Cowboys are one of the best offensive teams in the league. Just run and pass offense have been spectacular for this team all season. As much as the Giants fans kind of like to whinge about their team has been really, really good. Defensively, they're literally right in the middle, sitting at 17th DVOA for run and pass, which is, okay. Can't glean much from that. Not getting a whole lot out of that. But so what? That just means it's a average matchup across the board. On the Giants side, hang on, where was I? Yeah, on the Giants side, Defensively, they're just bad. They're 28th DVOA versus the pass, allowing a ton of yardage. They're a little better DVOA wise against the run at 12th overall, but some of that could just be because they haven't played against teams that were, spectacular versus the run. Because on our statsational model, which I'll show you right here, which kind of tries to tell the story of what will happen in this game. As you could see here, 153 rushing yards for Dallas, 316 passing yards. So basically lots of offense for Dallas. Not as much for the Giants. 97 rushing yards, 230 passing. So just not as much for the Giants. Now, the nice thing about the Giants passing attack is it's much more focused on just a couple of players, 3. But we'll get to the breakdown of the actual players. But so that 230 could go to very few players. It's a little bit more spread out with Dallas, although not that much. So let's take a look here at the how do we want to do this? All right, we'll take a look at the cheat sheet first, and I'll just go through the players as we see them. And as you can see here, Josh, DFS Up North, puts together this cheat sheet for DFS Army subscribers every single week, and we do them for all of the primetime slates. This one is his breakdown of tonight's game, and this is the DraftKings version with recommended exposures. I'm going to actually add some players to this that aren't here because this is actually missing. On DraftKings, we're gonna not just use this group. Okay, Zeke, of course, he's the highest price guy. He's the most likely to score the most points. His projection is slightly higher than Barkley's, but the highest on the slate. Not by that much. A little bit more than Dak. Quite a bit more than Amari here. I'm a little surprised at how low that is. And certainly above most of these other options. So, Zeke comes in as the top potential, raw fantasy points projection. The problem is he's also the most expensive. And so we run into a little bit of issue there in terms of squeezing the players we want together in the lineups. Buffalo's asking about the Giants versus the tight end. The Cowboys are particularly bad against the tight end. That's the team. The Giants, sure, they're bad against the tight end, but Dallas doesn't throw to the tight end very often. Jason Witten can catch a touchdown, but he hasn't gotten any yards this year. So Dallas happens to be bad versus the tight end, and it's an excellent matchup for Evan Ingram. But Evan Ingram hasn't been seeing the volume we like. But so here you've got Zeke, Barkley, Dak Prescott as potential options here. Cooper, certainly a captain potential. Again, very expensive. Daniel Jones, sure, he's had big games. Certainly viable here. Evan Ingram. And I'm going to add in Michael Gallup and Golden Tate. As a matter of fact, I really love Michael Gallup and Golden Tate as potential captain options, probably more than a lot of these other ones. And the reason is, as you start to make your lineup, if you start with Zeke, you're down to 6,500. Now we've got to use the kicker. We no choice. We've got to, just to allow us some breathing room, or we have to find one of these super turds to put in the lineup, like a Tavon Austin. Let's see who we can get for cheap. A Cody Latimer. This is your super turd level, right? This $800 guy is going to get you 5 or 6 points. And Cody Latimer, there's not that many of these turds to really mess with. Latimer's probably the best one. Somebody asked me earlier about Rhett Ellison. Ellison's fine, but Ellison's fine for like a 1 or 3% exposure flex, but we're not putting him certainly not putting any of these turds in the captain spot. Gallman Jr. is a play on Barkley getting injured in game. Could it happen? Sure. What are the chances? I don't know. Let's say 5%. So there is a legitimate, play here for both Pollard and Gallman, just being like, hey, if the running back gets hurt, and you have this guy in your lineup, like what are the probabilities of the running back getting hurt? And then you're like, all right, if I put this guy in, what's the probability then with a hurt running back that this guy breaks the slate? Pretty high. So that's when you see lineups where people play some shit like that, like why the fuck did they play Wayne Gallman? He's getting 0, 0, 0. He does not get looks. He got a target last week, right? But essentially he's not out there. Well, you play him because you're playing the odds that Barkley gets hurt. It's happened before. He's been hurt in game a couple times over his career. So it's like about a 5% chance. Now, if I told you got to play this guy and you have a 5% chance of winning 250K on DraftKings, you're like, hey, that's not a bad fucking deal. We never. No, here we go. SEO. Who are the super turds? Austin, Latimer, and Ellison. Don't ignore an SEO super turd, guys. So, yes, these are the guys we're talking about. Latimer is probably my personal favorite, but Tavon Austin has done it as well in the past. Now, just because somebody's a super turd, that doesn't mean we're putting them in the captain spot, guys. Come on, let's not go crazy. What you're trying to do is just get a little exposure to them in the flex. But talking about the captain spot, I just want to show you, and this is DraftKings, how, if you start with Zeke and you're trying to want to load up on some decent players. All right, I got the kicker in there. Now what? 7K left? Well, that don't leave me much. I like Golden Tate. Okay. Now I've got to find another like really, really turdly player to make anything kind of work. So, am I looking at Rosa, Slayton, Cowboys defense? Okay, Cowboys defense, right? So now I've got Cowboys kicker, Cowboys defense, Cowboys. Now I still only got to 8,200. So it's still not really getting me in a place where I'm like super excited about who I can put in this lineup. Okay. So basically only one of the sort of 4 studs in the lineup makes it in if you do any one of them as the captain. So that makes the numbers really interesting for me, because then I started to look at, all right, what happens if I put Michael Gallup? Now, Michael Gallup, his upside is just as good as Amari Cooper's. He's not going to do it as often, but he has that 25-point upside. And I'll talk about Golden Tate as well. Golden Tate with all his targets, or Evan Ingram. But you put a Mark Gallup in there, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, 77. All right, now let's throw the kicker in there again. And I always use the kicker from the favored team, although I think both kickers are in play here. But I use the favorite kicker, and again, both kickers in play. Yeah, Pollard will get some snaps. He'll get about 15 snaps. Antoine's talking about Pollard. He'll get about 15 snaps in this game. So he's more playable, for example, than a Wayne Gallman, who really won't get many snaps at all. Gallup is underperforming. We don't care about that. That's just noise. It's just noise. We're trying to win a tournament. So we're trying to win a tournament here. So I don't care about if he didn't do well the last few games, because these guys are up and down. It's NFL football. This is a divisional matchup. Will the Giants try to find some answer for Amari Cooper in this game where they double him? We've seen division opponents do shit like that all the time. And then the other guy goes crazy. I can just name so many examples of it, but with Golladay, with the double teams, we see it all the time. So we don't know. I don't care about that. What we're expecting here is not that it's the most likely that Michael Gallup has the best day, and we'll take a look at the props in a second. What we're saying is, if he has a great day, what can I do? It can happen. We know 2 out of, about 20% of the time this guy's going to go off. So if it's one of those situations, putting him here, and if he scores enough, what can we do with the rest of our lineup? Well, once you put the kicker in there, now 8,700, okay? Again, Golden Tate, one of my favorite plays on the slate. I should really break down these slates before getting into the actual lineup construction. But nonetheless, Golden Tate gets you there, and it's like, oh, wait a second here. Now I could throw Evan Ingram in there. Now I've got 2 guys. All right, I might as well use Daniel Jones. Okay, and I can put Zeke in there. Or let's say we want to try to squeeze in Barkley and Zeke in this lineup. Well, I can make it work because I use the cheaper captain. What if, again, I can get. I don't love Slayton in this matchup, but I mean he's going to be out there. He's getting looks. It is chasing, and the Dallas defense definitely keeps passes in front of them. Yeah, I mean Antoine's talking about Cooper. Yeah, of course he's going to be on there. Everybody's going to go for Zeke. So it's about, all right. Again, we got to this decision point. Now let's try it with Tate. Golden Tate is a guy who has gotten 10 targets a week the last 2. This is the guy that you want, 9, 10, 11. Shepard is still out, right? So he's going to get a lot of targets. Right? Golden Tate. So we put him in here. He's 10-2. Oh, wow. I can afford some shit. Again, we go back to, how about we do a double kicker? Now, I don't like 2 kickers, but once you do it, look what happens. Cooper, Prescott, Zeke. Now you might say, well, I don't like that combo. Okay. How about Barkley, Zeke, Jones? So the 2 kicker opens up a lot, but at the expense of a lot of upside over here. Now you can get even sillier with it. So there's a lot of different things, but let's go through these teams and the most likely scenarios. Who are the turds? Who are the studs? And that's how we can figure this shit out. One of my first approaches for this week is I'm not using rules on the optimizer. I just don't see where it's necessary. I think any sort of combination, there isn't too much rhyme or reason. The only thing you might want to do is kind of almost avoid Zeke, Cooper, Dak, and we might avoid. I mean, if you're trying to narrow down, I don't think Zeke and Dak, for example, are positively correlated. So that's a spot where I might avoid that pairing. But Jones and Barkley, they're totally positively correlated. There's no negative correlation in that situation. So there aren't too many rules I need. Zeke, Dak, do I need to pair him with 2 pass catchers? No, I don't know which are the 2. And sometimes he runs one in. Same thing with Daniel Jones. He runs a little bit. So I could see him in the lineup as a winner. He's so cheap. I mean, Daniel Jones is the highest floor. Yeah, he's got such a nice little floor at 8K. He's the best points per dollar play on the entire slate on DraftKings. You almost have to play him. Now, if I've got Tate, Marr, and Jones, I can really afford a lot. I can start to get Michael Gallup in here. Again, we know he has some upside. I don't want to necessarily pair up Gallup with Cooper. But I mean, that's what I kind of have to do here. But I can go Zeke in there and then, Evan Ingram. I like these lineups. I want to start hammering these lineups in because I really like them. But you're probably not going to be able to play Zeke and Dak together. All right, so looking at each team, let's just start with Dallas. Everything runs through Zeke. Of course, we know this. But Dak has been fantastic as well this season. Let's go. Let's just look at one team at a time. Dak has been great. He's pretty much more up than down all year. 20s, 30s, had one mediocre game. I'll take that any day. And he's throwing to these 2 guys, Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Now, Amari Cooper's been great. He's on my fantasy team. He's crushing it for me. But, yeah, David's talking about Cobb. Man, are you adding turds, David? Because you already told me you're 3 turds. You can't add a 4th. That's no. You get 3, not a 4th. Sorry. You don't get 4. Cooper's been great. 25, 14, 26. But Mike Gallup's been pretty fucking great too. Now, he had a bad couple games in terms of his production, but Cooper gets hurt a lot in game. That's a guy who could get hurt during the game and come out, and then it goes all to Michael Gallup. Now, most of Gallup's best games are when Zeke is a lot of times, when Cooper's kind of iffy, but sometimes it's not the case. This guy's had 2 25-plus point performances. He's still getting lots of looks. And again, with a divisional opponent, forget who the corner is. Doesn't matter. Giants don't have good corners. That doesn't matter. But what matters is they might double an Amari Cooper. I doubt it. Most teams can't double Cooper because how are you going to stop Zeke if you're paying too much attention to Cooper? But divisional opponents know their opponent's best weapons and they try to take them away. Now, the best weapon is Zeke, but I don't think you can really take Zeke away that well, although you never know. But that's what you've got to do. In these showdowns, you have to find a path to differentiate yourself. Like, what can you do a little bit different from the crowd? And if that means fading Zeke at massive ownership, that's just one way to go. I mean, that's a doable approach. That's a doable approach. So, you fade one of him or Barkley, you fade both of them. I think the interesting approach for me on DraftKings is just maybe not using these guys as the captain. And I'll throw some ownership numbers, but Dak projects to be the highest overall owned, but Zeke and Barkley Cooper, Daniel Jones, they're all going to be right about 50 to 60%. And it's not clear which one's going to be the highest, but those are the general projections, concepts, ideas. They'll all be 50 to 60%. So you have to find a path to be unique, and if you're going to try to win one of these tournaments. So that's just a little extra something. But looking at the rest of the Dallas team, okay, so we've got our four studs: Zeke, Dak, Cooper, and Prescott. Obviously, Cowboys defense is playable here. Giants, under the rookie quarterback, have been very generous to opposing defenses, so we're going to keep them in play. Although I'm not in love with them, as I think there's too much scoring potential in this game across all of the skill players to really want to fuck with the defense at the captain spot. So I'm probably not going to do that. I always like the kicker for the favorite team. Brett Maher has been good at times for this price. He's got the highest floor. I don't even mind, like I said, the double kicker, because in this case, we can't show it here, but in this case, because the Giants are at home, I like the home kicker too. For the turds on the Cowboys, where are my turds at? I know what you guys are here for. You're here for the turds. I get it. I know I'm self-aware. When you guys tweet at me, you're like, where are my turds at? I know what you're talking about. Love those turds. So where are my turds? Well, SEO already gave us some of the really good turds. Tavon Austin. Now, you might be like, why would I play this fucking asshole? But somehow he always seems to come through with a little something, like a running play for a touchdown. So this is a guy that every now and again will break open a showdown slate. He's probably a little more expensive than I think he should be. I think a Tavon Austin should be like 200 or 800 or some level like that. But yeah, Turdy Lattimore, it's coming. Yeah, you're on it. Wait till we get to the Giants, my man. We're on the Cowboys. Where are my Cowboys turds? Blake Jarwin, 2 or 3, good for a couple of targets a game. Could be a turd. How much exposure should you get? Not a lot. Never have more than one turd in the lineup, and don't get a lot of exposure to these guys. Like if you're making 150, 5% max on this kind of player. My turds. Right? 5% max, guys. Don't go crazy with these fucking turds, man. Jeez. So it's Tavon Austin, Blake Jarwin, Tony Pollard. We already talked about it. Tony Pollard, last week was a healthy game, but it was a blowout win for the Cowboys. In that blowout win, Pollard got, 8 carries. He did a little bit of damage. But in another game before that against the Jets, in the close game, he had 3 carries. Don't expect a lot from Tony Pollard. Now, Antoine is saying that the Giants or that the Cowboys are planning on doing a little more 2-back sets. Things like that. 2-back sets, things of that sort, where Pollard could get a little more action. That's fine. But the real reason you're playing Tony Pollard here, is if the Cowboys are blowing out the Giants, which is a distinct possibility. It's absolutely possible. I like pairing up Pollard with Dallas defense for that reason. If the Cowboys are blowing out the Giants, the backup running back is going to be in there late, getting those 8 carries, those 10 carries to kill the game. That's when in the blowout, right? In that scenario, Tony Pollard for this price, and again, it's not a great enough price. But it's a good enough price that, okay, but what happens if Zeke gets hurt in game? Then this guy smashes. So you get exposure to this turd, because what is the probability of you winning this tournament with 100,000 entrants on your one lineup? Your probability is 1 in 100,000. But let's say you use Tony Pollard and he's only, and let me check it out. But let's say you use Tony Pollard, right? And he's only fucking A, man, he's going to be like 10 to 15% owned. Well, 0 at the captain, but he'll be 10 plus, maybe 15. The projection for him is 10 to 15%, which is fucked up, by the way. But that's his projection. So use Tony Pollard, and now you're only competing with 10 or 15% of the field. So, okay. But the problem is if Zeke doesn't get hurt in game, you're probably dead. Frank is asking about Prescott, Elliott, and Cooper. Good correlation? No, Elliott is not positively correlated with Dak Prescott. So I wouldn't say good correlation. No. It's a single game, guys. I'm treating this game. Don't fuck around with rules. Don't get too crazy with the rules. Every one of these players can score a lot. The only rule that you might want to do is the only rule that you might want to pull off here is, kind of playing, like I said, I don't know about a rule, but if you're going to play Pollard, I kind of like Dallas defense, for example, in that blowout scenario. So like certain situations where like a player might play in a blowout. Okay, let's talk about the Giants side. Where my turds at? Giants. All right, these aren't turds up here. Great plays. Saquon Barkley, top play on the board. Not getting the volume. Yeah, did a pretty good volume game against Detroit. Took a lot though. It's this Giants team offense overall. It's not been spectacular. It's been pretty good, but not spectacular offensively in terms of production from the offensive weapons on this team. I don't care about wins or losses, by the way. When people tell, is that team good? I don't fucking care. I only care about my money and which fantasy players can win me more money. So wins and losses mean nothing to me. I don't even pay attention. I couldn't tell you what I don't care. I care about what these players produce from a fantasy points perspective. So let's look at this team because we can get some turds. We can get more turds on this Giants team. So, Saquon Barkley, probably not as good of a play as Zeke overall. Less owned a little bit. So certainly a contrarian pay up at running back if you're not going to double down on running back. I'm also going to show you guys in a minute how you should do this for cash games, by the way, which is really, really straightforward. I love cash games. You're going to get a cash lineup. Stick with me. I hope it works out, like my numbers, because I like this. Really, the hardest part about cash isn't who to play; it's just where to fit them in. But Barkley, the quarterback Daniel Jones at $8K, the price is too low. Now Daniel Jones, he has been up and down. Okay, he has had some poor games. They're at home. I can absolutely see a turd game out of Daniel Jones. Don't go 100% on Daniel. He was looking like shit even against Detroit until a late game comeback. The terrible game versus Arizona. We throw New England but out of the water, but Washington, Minnesota, he's not been spectacular. It's been fine. He doesn't rush it as much as I would like to see for a young mobile quarterback, and he's a rookie. He can fuck it up. So, but there's a reason he's priced down, but his upside is as good as anyone. He's got a high floor. I mean, no matter what's going to happen here at 8K, he's probably not getting you less than 10 fantasy points. And there's a reasonable chance he'll get you to 25. Let's go for the rest of this, right? So Daniel Jones. Now, if I'm going to play Jones, who's he throwing to? Well, the two top targets are Golden Tate, who I love. 10 targets, 11 targets, 9 targets. Yes, please. I like volume. No Shepard means volume for Tate. I love it. Look at these scores. Look at his salary. This is a candidate for MVP. If he has a good game, he's going to win you the tournament. Because when I put in the taint at captain, I can afford lots of good things. Don't look at my investment opportunities, guys. That's my shit. It's not for you. Once you put him in, you can afford a lot of shit. A lot of good shit. Pete Boss picked it up. He picked it up. All right. So after Tate, we got Ingram. Ingram's got a great matchup. But notice that he hasn't gotten as much of target volume as you would have hoped. That could turn around this week. The Cowboys particularly funnel to opposing tight ends. So I could really, really see a scenario where it goes 9-10 targets to Ingram and Taint goes down to 7 targets. Right? That can come down. It could flip. But as of up until now, it's been Tate who's been getting more targets, and Ingram, who's been taking a back seat. That can flip right here, right now, tonight. Because, again, the matchup. Dallas, good versus wide receivers, bad versus tight ends. Okay? These things aren't by accident. It's not like Dallas has been playing great tight ends. It's just how their defense operates. So where are my turds at? That's where we get away from this top group, and let's start looking at some Giants turds. Aldaric Rosas, the kicker, sure, it's a home game. Has he done much? Look at this crap. It's not good. This is not a kicker who's producing. Now, why isn't he producing? I don't fucking know. I think it's because the Giants' offense is a little bit inept. They don't move the football as well. They're not getting stalled out in the red zone. They're just not getting to the red zone, or when they do, they score. So, for whatever reason, Rosas, much riskier. I like Brett Maher a lot more. The Dallas kicker, a lot more. Giants defense, this is a Dallas team that doesn't give up interceptions. They really don't fumble. There's not a whole lot for the Giants to do defensively. I don't want a lot of this defense, guys. I don't want a lot of it. Giants defense has been shit. Actually, they've been okay. They're not a good defense, but they've been opportunistic. But the problem is Dallas just doesn't give up points to opposing. Their style of play is not conducive to this. So, they're not turnover prone. Anything can happen. It's football. Antoine is saying get Barkley with Tate or Ingram in every lineup. It's going to be contrarian. I think if you're getting a lot of Barkley, you're not getting much Zeke, and I think that will be contrarian, Antoine. But let's look at the rest of the pieces, because where my turds, these are my turds are hiding out down here. Look, here's a little turd crew. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go through them all. Gallman, what does he need? For Gallman to be in the winning lineup, he needs Saquon Barkley to get hurt. Even more so than Tony Pollard does. This guy doesn't do shit, really, when Barkley's healthy. So you're playing him for the injury to Saquon, and you better hope it happens early in the game. 5% probability. Players get hurt in game. 5%. Something like that. Okay. Who else? Benny Fowler, been complete trash. Even worse. Now that Tate's on the team, because it's really the starters are Tate, Slayton, and Cody Latimer, with this guy operating as the fourth wide receiver. It's not a good bet. But, I mean, he gets a couple passes every single week. Anything can happen. So you get a couple turd shares of him. Expect a 0. Anything better than a 0 is great. But again, it's a 5% or less situation. Red Ellison, 1 or 2 targets each week while Evan Ingram is healthy. Now, again, backup tight ends. We always want to get a little bit of exposure to the backup tight end. Get a little exposure. Why? What if the tight end gets hurt? Evan Ingram gets hurt all the time. Then this guy comes in, but even with Ingram hurt, and then he comes in, he's got to catch a few passes. It's a low likelihood scenario, right? So if you're making 150, then okay, get a couple shares of Red Ellison. He's a fucking turd. SEO called him out. He's almost always right. But he chose 3 guys, and then he put a 4th one on. So now I don't even know what to do with that. 4 choices, 4 turds. It's too many turds. He's almost always right, though. So expect one of the 4 to be in the nuts. I just don't know which one, because there's too many. Now there's too many. The turds are too many. One more guy, Cody Latimer. We love Cody Latimer. No, do we love? No, we don't fucking love Cody Latimer. It fucking sucks. But he's going to be out there. He's going to be, Cody Latimer lived on my dynasty football, the fantasy football team, for a couple of years before I dropped his ass. He had some hype behind him when he was with Denver. Didn't work out. So he's not a good player. 3 targets, 5 targets the last couple of weeks. Can he get you there? Yes. 800 is the best part. If I put Cody Latimer, not in your captain, guys, don't play this guy in your captain. He's not doing that. And did I mention Slayton? I skipped over Slayton. Slayton is the best of the kind of turds for the Giants, but he's also the most expensive. He put up a good number last week. He's going to be very heavily owned for that reason. Let me grab an ownership projection here, or at least an idea. 10%. 27% ownership. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's going to be hard to know which one will be the most. Dak and Zeke. Dak could be Zeke. I think it's going to be between those two. I think they're both going to be very highly owned. I don't know which one will be the highest, but they're not going to be. No captain is ever 50%. You won't get 50% on anyone. I think whatever captain you choose, you're not going to see over 20% ownership on him. Even with Zeke, because again, you can't. Even with Zeke, you just can't fit that much goodness in there. Hold up a second. Giving up 10 sacks through 9 games, that's not a lot of sacks, Michael. And 7 interceptions. Again, these are low numbers. They're giving up the least points to opposing defenses. 10 sacks all season. The Jets give up 10 sacks a game. Yeah, maybe a flex, but I don't even like. I'm sure anybody's in play in flex. They're in play for cheap, but yeah, I mean, has Dak thrown 7 interceptions? Yeah, 7. Okay, so 7 interceptions, but 1 sack, 1 interception. It's not enough. It's not enough. Yeah, they don't give up a lot of points to opposing defenses. Even if this was the Patriots, I wouldn't be like super excited to play that defense against the Cowboys. The Cowboys just don't, I like playing the defense against the Giants with a rookie quarterback, throw happy kind of mess on offense. Not so much against the Cowboys. They're disciplined offense and they don't have turnovers really. All right, check this out. You want to talk about what do we do in cash games? Running backs, quarterbacks, kickers. That's how you set up a cash game on DraftKings and Fanduel. So how do you squeeze these guys in here? You got to make an exception. I'd probably make the exception with Golden Tate because to fit it all together. But like normally, how would I want to do a cash? I'd want to do running backs, quarterbacks, kicker. Problem is, as soon as you do this, you only have 4,600 left. I don't like the captain when you do that, so you can't quite fully pull this off. But this would be an ideal way to approach cash. You just can't pull it off. But I like it, but you can't pull it off. So you have to give up something. Someone. Now, if I give up this guy, I can go Tate and his high target share at captain and get another kicker in. Again, I hate Rosas. So going to be tough. Another way to go might be to throw in this super turd, Cody Latimer, who gets a few looks every single week. And that allows you to make it all come together. Look at this. Choose from Evan Ingram. Oh, man, I wanted to get Dak in here. Yeah, got to put a kicker in there. Here he is. With this approach, you can actually get Zeke in the captain spot. Even that doesn't really allow for it very well. So not the easiest actually as I'm looking at it, but we generally want to try to get as many kickers and quarterbacks in the lineup as we possibly can in cash, but you got to Tetris it together to make it work. Even if you went, I wonder if going crazy, I could see I don't like doing this at all, but going crazy by putting the kicker here in cash, you're going to lock in. I mean, he gets about 8 fantasy points per game. He's had some bad games, but most of the time he's doing some work. Get Zeke in here, get Dak in there, get Jones in here. And again, I think the one you have to almost give up is Dak Prescott. I love Dak, but man, it's tough to make it all fit. Especially without the Giants kicker being viable. I can't work. Yeah, this isn't working for me either. So have to work on that, actually. I'm not happy with this cash lineup. So I probably wouldn't go that way. I actually think you might need to load up on some other pieces that you wouldn't expect in cash, like Evan Ingram and Golden Tate, to make it work. All right, let's move over to FanDuel real quick. One thing I forgot to show. I showed the Statsational model already. 316 for, lots of passing yards, lots of yardage, lots of running yards for Dallas. Not that much for the Giants. I showed you that before. So let's go over to FanDuel real quick. We'll change our sheet over to the FanDuel version. Get the slate opened up. Oh, got the pooch punt. And what I'm going to do for the FanDuel side is I'm going to show you a little bit of a tutorial. And our new... Patrick's asking about Barkley. Same reason Zeke doesn't really fit in there, man. You put that most expensive player in there, there's just not enough turds to bring your lineup together. You could play Barkley at captain, but he's going to be great. We love Barkley, all of that. But, you put that guy in, you're going to pay a lot. So on FanDuel, salary becomes a little less relevant. So let me load this up on, I've got it loaded up. So what I'm going to do here on the FanDuel side, I'm actually going to show, alongside the breakdown, a little bit of tutorial how to set up the new domination state. Now, functionally, it's the same, but you'll see some of the cool changes on the, you'll see some of the changes that we've done to it in this video. But let's start with the cheat sheet. Let's start with the group. So FanDuel, this is DraftKings. Give me FanDuel. Where is it? Okay, here we go. FanDuel. Dak, Barkley, Zeke, Jones. That's your main group here. I would throw in, though, again, I am not against Amari Cooper for low exposure. I'm not against taking a shot or two, low exposure to Michael Gallup. I think those are the other two that you could potentially add in. So it depends on how wide of a group you want at the captain spot. But Zeke is the highest likelihood to be the highest scoring player on the slate. I would say followed by Dak, Barkley, and then, yes, a little nod to Daniel Jones. Or I might do a little bit of Jones, like 5%. I might do a little bit of Cooper. We've seen Cooper break slates open, so it's worth a little exposure. Maybe a couple of percentage points on Michael Gallup, too, just in case he goes bananas. But basically, this is your group. Dak, Barkley, Zeke, and Jones. Now, let me do this while doing a breakdown. So check this out. This is the new version of the Domination Station Optimizer set up for FanDuel. And again, the way we work it is the same as always. Now, we have a cool new feature. People always having a hard time figuring out how to lock somebody in the MVP spot. If you lock him, he is now locked in the MVP spot. If you look here, it'll show you in the all that he's locked in MVP or flex. You cannot lock both. So one little thing we've cleaned up here that a lot of people are having a hard time figuring out. David likes Danny Dimes as the captain. Yeah, I'm okay with it. He's cheap enough on DraftKings. And MVP on FanDuel. There we go. Yeah, playable there. He'll be low owned. This is the group. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's how I do it. Josh broke down his proposed exposures. So sure, I'm cool with that. 25, 20. Let's go 30. Let's go. That's 50, 50, 75. Let's go 90, right? And then I'll go 5 here. It's Cooper. I don't like anyone else. So let's see. 30, 50, 90, 105. Actually, I went over 100. So that's great. 50, 75, 80, 90, 95. What the fuck is going on with my math? 95. So can do that. We can add this up to 35%, right? Okay. That's it. Now let's run 100 lineups, and I'm going to show you guys some other cool shit that's going to happen here as we start to see what the projections naturally want to give us. And the reason I just run the Domination Station Optimizer like this, I like to look and watch and see what the projections naturally start to give us in terms of exposures. And you start to see which turds are popping way too much. Which ones aren't enough. Yeah, like Brett Maher here and Aldaric Rosas there. That's not good. right? Now that's happening because they're probably very, very differently priced. Yeah, Rosas is a full 1,000 below Mar. So you're going to get more of that. Now, oddly, I don't get the whole Randall Cobb 9-point projection. When has he scored 9 fantasy points? I mean, I want some exposure to him, but he's averaging 6 fantasy points per game. He really doesn't get a lot of action in this offense. He had one good game. I guess it was week 1, and he scored the touchdown, and that's really what a return touchdown. There it is. No, a receiving touchdown, not a return touchdown. He scored a touchdown. Okay. He's going to need to score a touchdown. 8K is a little expensive. So what we're going to do now is control for our exposures. Let's see how this is looking. How we're 70 lineups in. All right, we're going to have to do these runs, not 100. That's way too much. All right. For the purpose of this video, let's do 40. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I want to show you guys some cool new shit. For anybody DFS Army subscriber who's here, and you're familiar with the domination station. So I'm going to show you some changes here. First of all, on the All tab now, you can see the exposures, MVP and flex, and then total. So now I could really see as I look through the screen, oh, I have Zeke, 47% MVP, 53% flex, 100% lineups total. This will show you our MVP exposures. This will show you your flex exposures. So just a little more intuitive. That's all. Pretty cool. A little more intuitive here, and also on the locking players thing. That's it. Those were the changes. That was the big deal change. The bigger changes on the NFL stacking system that you'll see later in the week as I do those breakdowns. But for the showdowns, they're all going to be like this. You'll see your MVP and your flex exposure in the all tab. You can see them both. You'll get the total exposure, and you can now lock players in either tab separately. I never lock players. I don't do that. All right, so let's look at what we wound up with, where my turd's at, and then you'll see, all right, we got a little too much turdliness here. And again, this is a slate where my approach, me, I don't think we need rules. I guess if you have Dak and MVP, we do need a rule. But it's a simple rule. All right, if Dak is MVP, we're going to do one of his pass catchers. So I'm going to do one of Cooper or that's all. I think if he's MVP, I need one of these two guys. How else is he going to be the MVP if Cooper or Gallup aren't doing something? Like he could throw to Zeke also, but one of Cooper or Gallup probably doing something. Now, I don't mind if you make no rules, but again, Jones, if he's MVP, I'm going to do one of. And again, why am I not doing more than one of? Because I just think there's a lot of players that can score a lot of fantasy points in this game. So I don't think I need like more than one of, but Barkley catches passes. I'm including him in the pass catcher group. It's going to be Tate. It's going to be Barkley. It's going to be Slayton. It's going to be Ingram. It's going to be even Cody Latimer. I don't really need it to be Latimer, but whatever. I'm looking for players that can lead to a great game for the quarterback, and it's probably not going to be Cody Latimer or that other dude. I can't even remember. He's so bad, I can't even. Benny Fowler. Benny Fowler's not leading to a winning game by performance by Daniel Jones. I don't need to pair that up. So here we go. Just these two basic rules. Now, more importantly, we're going to control our flex exposures here. Getting too much of somebody, too little of another guy. We want to make sure we don't have too much turd exposure in our lineup. I'm going to limit some of these guys here. Let's see. Actually, I don't mind it. The only thing I kind of think I need to do, Blake Jarwin's more of a 5%er for me. Leave him at 6. You know, this guy's coming up 5. I don't know who Cedric Wilson is. I'm going to uncheck that motherfucker. I do want a little more of these two guys. So and I want a little more Cooper, and I want a little more of these guys. So let me slap some likes on some of these guys here. Amari Cooper, give him a like. Daniel Jones is very expensive here. Michael Gallup, I'm going to give him a like. Evan Ingram, we'll give him a like. Brett Maher, I'm going to give him a love. That's all. Give it another run. Russ is asking about SuperDraft, guys. We love SuperDraft. SuperDraft, super fun. There's always overlay. I'll take a look at the SuperDraft projections in a second. I wanted to give a little bit of a show of the domination station here for FanDuel. Let's see what the top optimized lineup looks like. Well, they want to use Pollard in there to squeeze them all together. But with a Pollard turd, I mean, you can get Zeke, Ingram, Barkley, and Dak. Not bad. You got to have a turd in there. This isn't bad. Zeke, Witten. I mean, you're not getting... I really want Barkley in my perfect lineup here. Elliott, Barkley, Dak, Ingram, Latimer. I don't mind this in cash right here. There's a lot of different ways to approach cash games. You might not want to play cash games. A lot of different ways to just attack it. But let's look at our total exposures again. And, you know, basically what you want to do here, you look at all. Zeke is 100%. I don't want 100% Zeke. So I'm going to go 40. I'm going to limit him to 40% flex instead of the 65 I'm getting. That will reduce it from 100% a little bit. Here it says, okay, so it says Dak I'm getting 73%, 48% flex, 25% MVP. So like I can reduce that to 40, make sure I have some lineups without him. Barkley, 20% MVP, 50%, that gives me 70. Again, I can go to 40 here, just kind of limit some of these guys. 28%. This is a pretty decent amount here. Gallup, Rosas. I don't want this much Rosas. So I'm going to limit him to 10% or 50. He just hasn't had a good game this year. I don't want 25% of that guy. Witten is really just a touchdown, hope and a prayer, although he tends to get them against the Giants. So, you know, again, Randall Cobb, he hasn't done shit all year. So I'll just limit some of these situations a little bit and see what happens next. Give it another run. And that's it. So you guys have gotten a chance to take a look at the new updates for the Domination Station. These are not live. These are on our beta server. They'll be live by the end of this week, I'm sure, as long as we can beta test it. There's some other stuff going on the Domination Station that we're beta testing as well. This is a very big update coming out this week. Look forward to it. But you're getting a chance to kind of get a look at, wait a minute, did I not set it to tournament mode? Oh, yeah, I do have it on tournament mode. All right, sorry. Let's see, 34. So I should have let the whole thing run here. Let's do that again. But you'll start to see, look at what people always ask me what tournament mode does. Here's what tournament mode does. If you have a player set to 40%, they will never pass 40% exposure while you're running it. Whereas if you don't have tournament mode on, what will happen is they'll go to 100% for the first 40 out of 100 lineups, and then you'll have zero exposure to that in the next 60 that are generated. So what tournament mode is, it spreads around exposures for players you put a max exposure setting on. Even a lot of the staff don't know what it does. It's interesting. A lot of the members have no clue. They just use it. This is what it does. It's a very specific thing that it does. All right, so here you have it. Is that a little more Evan Ingram than I want? Yes, right? I don't want 57%. I like Evan Ingram, but you know, I want to limit my exposure to a lot of these guys just in case, right? So this is basically the approach. Again, Daniel Jones now getting 75%. That's a little more than I want. So I got 68%. I got 53% in the flex. Let's set it to 40%. What if he has a bad game? So this is what I'm trying to say. You're building for different scenarios. One cool thing you could do here, and I think no one's going to do it, is you can lock in the Domination Station to only allow like 59K instead of 60 or 58 or something that will make your lineup super unique. I don't like doing that here because there's a lot of reasons to want to pay up. This is not a slate really that I think that's going to work. I think what will work on this slate is studs and duds, getting as many of these studs, the right ones in your lineup, and the right turd to make it all come together. So that's why my turds are going to be super important, especially on FanDuel. I think you're going to need a turd in your lineup to win this contest. You're going to need whichever of Tony Pollard, Witten, Cobb, Jarwin, Fall, this guy, Benny Fowler. I like Cody Latimer, Slayton. You're going to need the right turd. And then the rest of these guys are all the same group. We know who they are. We know who the studs are. So it's just going to be about which 4 studs and which turd. That's it. All right, let's take a look real quick because we had a request. We'll take a look real quick at the SuperDraft numbers here. And one of the cool things about DFS Army, if you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, we give you a free membership to DFS Army for a month when you sign up for SuperDraft. Get a free month. So let's say instead of paying us $50 a month, you sign up for SuperDraft using our code and promo code ARMY, right? And then you let us know that you did that and we verify it. So instead of giving us the $50, you put $50 in your SuperDraft account and then you play it. So basically, you get to play it. It's a win-win. Why wouldn't you do this? Sign up for SuperDraft and play it. Now, here are the projections. SuperDraft, the way it works is you get a multiplier rather than a salary for each player. So we look at the base projection and then the multiplier. Like, here's one I love. This is, if you want to learn a little SuperDraft strategy, I'm just going to show it to you real quick right now. How long are we into this? We're almost at the hour. We're going to cut it off at an hour. So I'm going to drop some SuperDraft knowledge on you guys, like real quick. This is the situation you want. You want a player that is getting a 3.55 multiplier. So he's already a good value, even if he just hits his normal projection. But if a 3.55 multiplier guy, let's say Golden Tate accidentally scores a touchdown and he goes from 9.25 to 16 fantasy points on the game. Well, that 16 is going to be multiplied by 3.5. So 16 becomes 32, 48, 55,000 points. 55, 56, right? Whereas if Daniel Jones or let's say Dak Prescott at a 2 point, which is a spectacular multiplier, let's say he gets an extra 10 points. He goes to 30. He needs an extra 10 points to get you to 60. He needs to score 30. Where this guy, to get you to 60, he only needs to score about 15. He just needs a touchdown. Any one of these guys will crush, though. I love SuperDraft here. Again, we want these higher multipliers in the champion spot. It's not called captain. R circle TM trademark the champion spot because they're super different from the other sides, captain and MVP. They call it champion. RTM. You want these guys who are projected lower, but in raw projection, but their SuperDraft projection looks good because that means they have a massive multiplier. Here's another guy of that sort. If Evan Ingram goes off, and we know he has a range of outcomes that includes 20 or 25 points in this game, well, 25, 50, 75, that's where this goes nuts. So the standout captains, champions, Kevin, don't say fucking, it's not a captain, it's a champion. Different. It's totally different. It's not the same. But the trademark, the champion. So these types of not Brett Maher. Now you might be asking, all right, well, what about Brett Maher? Is he good? No, the difference is the kicker doesn't have a range of outcomes as wide as a wide receiver does or a running back. The kicker's range of outcomes is like, hey, we expect an 8. He could get you 15. He might even go crazy and get 19 points. I doubt it. But it's not as big of a range. He can get you 15, 30, 45, right? 50. He can get you there. I don't mind. I almost always use the kicker on SuperDraft. I always do because they have these high multipliers. I like that. So their floor is low, their floor is higher, and their multiplier is massive. You never get a 0 from the kicker, or you rarely do, unless it's Aldaric Rosas. He fucking sucks. But even Aldaric Rosas at 4x has to be a consideration. But if you look at the rest of these guys, you can get 4.5 on a Cody Latimer. You really need a miracle for this to pay off, but it could happen. If he scores a touchdown, he's in the nuts. Who else? Turds. Slayton rhymes with Satan. Not sure why I said that. Not sure why it's relevant, but it does. So every time I see Darius Slayton's name, I think of Tenacious D and their rock battles with Satan in all of their songs. It comes to my head. And then after this thing, I'm going to end up listening to Tenacious D songs. Like, yeah, it's not my normal hip hop, but I can't help it. So Slayton 3.75, sure. If he does what he did last week, he can get you there. But again, he doesn't need to go way past this projection to get you there. So we want the high multiplier players for the upside, but we also want to lock in. I mean, you could play on SuperDraft. You could just play Dak and Zeke and Barkley and Jones. The problem is they're all low multipliers. So let's look at the regular flex projection. Daniel Jones continues to project the best because 1.9, 2x for a quarterback is pretty freaking great. Dak is only getting 1.35x. So in order for Dak to score the same as Jones, he needs to outscore Jones significantly. Like if Jones scores 20, he's going to get you 40 points. Dak needs to score 30 to get you 40 points. Big difference. Yes, it was. But if you were into Tenacious D, you would know what I'm talking about. David, that's your assignment. Listen to the D this week. You'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so these guys are only getting you a 1 multiplier. Zeke, is he getting you there? No. Like Zeke is like unplayable. So what does Zeke need to do to be in the perfect spot? He's getting you 20 points here, right? 2025. But man, 2025 for Zeke to get 20, 21, he's projected for 21. Let's say he goes past that and gets you 26. Well, that still doesn't pass most of these other guys if they have even a decent game. So you could play him, but it's more of a floor play. Like the kicker will get you 20 points. He'll get you that same 25 points if he just kicks 3 field goals. Like let's look at the kicker. So for comparison purposes, he must be up here. Fuck is a kicker? Mar. Oh, he's just not showing here because they didn't put him in. But Brett Maher, he's projected for 8.3. Am I tripping or am I just not seeing that? All right. I can't see what his normal projection is, but I assume it's like 3x. Let's see what the other kicker. I hate this. Feels like when this happens and I'm trying to make a point and the fucking thing doesn't show up. Just pisses me off to no end. All right. He's about the same as Slayton. So what is Slayton's normal projection here? 2.5. So it's like 2.3. So at 2.3x, Mar gets you 9 points. It's 9, 18, 22. It's about the same as what Zeke gets if he does his normal game. So the kicker all the way down there is going to get you about the same as like a Zeke. And a Zeke can go off, but if he kicks an extra field goal, it all balances out. So my suggestion for SuperDraft is stick with the high multiplier guys. Hope that they get a touchdown. And that Golden Tate goes from 9, which he should get potentially with only like a quarter of a touchdown factored in, to if he actually scores and has a big game, he gets you 21 at 2.35. That's going to get you not 21 points, but 50. It's like the difference is massive. He can go to 50 if he has a big game. He can get you to 50 easily if he has a big game. Barkley has no chance of getting you to 50 because he'd have to score 50 fantasy points. The same thing with Zeke. He's not getting you there. The only way he gets there is if he scores 50, and he never did it before. So it's unlikely. All right. That's going to do it for the Showdown Breakdown. Thank you guys for joining me. Remember, for those of you who made it to this point, you probably already liked and subscribed to the channel, but it's very important. I don't care if you're a DFS Army subscriber or not. Like, subscribe, and hit that little bell thingy on the YouTube that lets you know, because I just go live with this shit. Like, there's very little warning. You want to get that notification. Hey, Geek is live. He's breaking some shit down. If you want to jump in here and ask a question, that's how you do it. We have so much going on our YouTube channel, so much content, betting content now. We're doing a lot of sports gambling stuff with our Beat the Bookie crew. Keg is breaking down NBA slates every single day. So there's a lot going on in this channel. A lot of it is totally free. You don't have to be a subscriber to necessarily. A lot of shit is behind the paywall, guys. So you're missing out on a ton. Trust me, this ain't a quarter of what we do. But like and subscribe. That way, when something goes live, you can be like, oh, yeah, Geek is back. I'm going to watch that shit. That guy's crazy. Or you could be like, Geek is back. That guy got a fucking potty mouth. I better not turn that off. Better not turn that on at work. NSFW. Listen on your headphones. But it's like everyone else doesn't do that. It's just me. So anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Good luck tonight. Let's crush it. For anybody in DFS Army, if you want to check out the new version of the Domination Station Showdown mode, you want to beta test it, you can do so. I'll post something in the Domination Station channel for how to do it. All right, that's it for this one. Good luck tonight, everybody. Deuces.